Alright, I'm back with another Avengers video because, I mean, how often do we really get new Avengers news or content in this day and age? Not very often, so got to maximize that when I can. This week, I already talked about the big Black Panther expansion reveal and the roadmap they were talking about, and that was before I actually got my hands on Hawkeye, which was the new release character for this week. I've now played with Hawkeye, taken him to level 50. I know there was some talk about the XP curve being nerfed, and it was going to take longer to level up heroes. Didn't notice that. Not at all. I'd say in total it took about 4 hours to get from... I hear somebody. Evie? You're not sprinting. Oh, okay. You don't actually want to come in? That's fine. All in all, it took about 4 hours, I think, to get to level 50, and that's not very long. Like, I was getting 3 to 5 levels a mission. It wasn't really anything dramatically different than normal, so I got all my skill points. You're kind of able to maximize this kit. And then there, of course, is the grind to gear level 150, which I'll get into that later, but that's a whole other thing. And I like him. He's fun. Like, Crystal Dynamics is very good at making these character kits, making them fun to play as, and in this case, sort of unique, but that's kind of where the problem lies. The issue is that 3 months ago, we had the game's first character, Kate Bishop, who is an archer, and Hawkeye is also an archer, and they did go very much out of their way to try and make them as different as possible. Hawkeye has all different signature moves. He does not have Kate's quantum teleport ability, which is the basis of, I don't know, most of her moves. And he has different finishers, different heroic moves, and they, even different traversal where he shoots like grappling arrows and stuff. So there are a lot of changes. However, he is still fundamentally an archer with a samurai sword. And in that sense, he feels a whole lot like Kate. So this is kind of what I was afraid of, and it just doesn't feel quite as special as when Kate arrived, and Kate felt so cool and unique and fun, because this just seems like we've already done like at least 60% of this with Kate already. And he's still got, he's got the 3 different types of arrow, the singular arrow, the tri-arrow, and then the one with an arc that you have to like wind up. And like they do different things, like they're not exactly the same as Kate's, but it's still the same mechanics. So it just feels really similar to Kate in a way where it's like, he's still fun because Kate is fun, but this would have worked a lot better if they had released these two kind of when they wanted to, which was really early on. Like we were supposed to get Kate like within weeks of launch originally. That was like the first plan. And then Hawkeye was absolutely supposed to be there before the end of the year. So if these were released like kind of close together, I could see that being one thing. But in the situation we're in, where all these delays took place and they had to fix the game and do all this stuff, and then everything got stretched out, now these are going to be the only 2 heroes for the entire first year of the game until Black Panther arrives sometime this fall. And that doesn't feel as good, because if you only have 2 heroes, you would really want them to be kind of distinct from one another. So unless they're going to slip Spider-Man in there at some point, this is kind of where we're at, and this is why Hawkeye's arrival, I feel like, is going to have even less of an impact than Kate's arrival, just because, like, he's a more well-known name, I guess, but he is very much like Kate 2.0, Kate without her quantum reactor, and still fun, still, enjoyable to play as, but that's kind of a core problem. His campaign is fine. It's pretty short. I think you can rush it in an hour. I did it in about an hour and 45 minutes with exploring the wasteland a little bit. It's kind of weirdly structured in that it spends this whole time like with this big mystery of like where Nick Fury is and like who's the big boss controlling the wastelands and stuff. But like we already know it's Maestro, because like Maestro shows up like 2 seconds into every trailer for Hawkeye content. So it's not exactly some shocking reveal that he's the big bad. So essentially 90% of the entire plot line is like leading up to like the reveal of Maestro, when it's like, okay, we know we know what's going on here. It bounces back and forth between the present and future, and like they try to do some very, very, very loose adaptations of comic storylines, My Life as a Weapon and Old Man Hawkeye, and there's not enough time. It's like you do 2 missions essentially from each, 2 or 3 missions from each kind of storyline, and there's not really enough to get it done. you do see how it feeds into the overall narrative. Like this does connect directly to Kate, which connects directly to the original plot line, and like this is all leading up to like this big Kree invasion, whenever that's going to happen, which we are trying to prevent. This is a future where we did not prevent it, and as such, things went poorly. The other problem with the content drop is that once you beat the campaign missions, like they just did all this work to make you be able to replay the base campaign again, which 6 months later, I don't really care to do that. I don't know if that was worth their time. Like I know it was something people requested. I just don't know if it was worth putting the development effort into, but like you can't replay stuff like the Future Imperfect campaign. So you beat it, and then you go to the Wasteland, and there was one mission there. One mission. It's some new threat sector where you're just finding some Kree data in the Wasteland. And there's kind of a new multi-step mission where you have to kill a bunch of things in the Wasteland and kill things with finishers and open chests and stuff, which is supposed to lead to an artifact. But then that dead ends because you need to wait until Maestro villain sectors are unlocked. And that appears to be bugged as daily villain sector rotations have been for literally the entire duration of the game. So I don't know how many steps are in that quest, but as of right now, like there is very little to do in the Wasteland. It's so weird. Like the way this is structured is so weird because like there's content like planned for the Wasteland where they're going to introduce like this big patrol mode to it where you can kind of like free farm it for loot. It kind of sounds like what Anthem did with its roaming patrol mode, and you can actually just like straight up farm that, but that's like months away. Like that is pretty far into the roadmap. It's like the last thing that happens before Black Panther gets here, I think. So it seems weird to launch that without something attached to it. So now I'm in this conundrum where, okay, it took like 4 total hours to get them to 50. But now if I want to grind to 150, if I'm playing new content, I'm literally doing like 1 or 2 missions in the Wasteland over and over again. If I want to try and be more efficient, I would be doing just hives over and over again for the drops in those to try and get my gear score up. But like I've been running these same hives since launch, and like I just don't care to do that. Like and once you get to the end game, there is no end game because there is no end game content. Like they still haven't added anything resembling like true end game content. They have the Mega Hive, which is like 40 floors of just exhausting fighting. Like it's not difficult once you get to that level. Like it's very doable. It just takes like 2 hours because it's 40 floors of a hive, and like it's rewarding. It gives you exotics and stuff, but like I just that has been essentially the only end game content for so long now, and the Omega level threats are still not on the roadmap. We don't really know how those will function, and I'm even worried about what they're showing with those because it's like 4 abominations as a boss in the AIM cloning labs, which that doesn't sound fun or like terribly creative. Like if we're waiting, 6-9 months for, well, it's going to be at least, probably 7-8-9 months for a raid, you would want like a raid boss, like a real raid boss, like something unique. We're getting like Monica as her own standalone villain sector later, which could be cool. But like right now, I don't really want to play with Hawkeye anymore until there was actual new content to do. And there is stuff coming up. There's like this Red Room thing, which ties in with the Black Widow movie, which is not till May. There is some sort of Tachyon thing happening. There is the Monica villain sector, and then there's the patrol mode. So like once all of these things start launching, like, yeah, okay, maybe I'll go back and play those with Hawkeye and both play new content and level him up at the same time. But like, no, I do not feel like doing 20 hives in a row to get him up to, 130 and start having exotics drop and stuff. Like I don't care. And like I have other, I'm balancing all these other live service games. I have Destiny, I have Genshin Impact, and like I was gonna, theoretically spend a good amount of time with Hawkeye after launch here, but there's not that much to do. And like Outriders is out in 10 days, and that's gonna be very all consuming. And that seems like that does have a very solid kind of loot leveling structure kind of mapped out at launch. So I don't know. I'm frustrated because I don't like being so negative about Avengers, and like I talked to the team ahead of this launch, and they're very passionate. They're very committed to the game. Like this isn't like Anthem. Everyone's just like running for the hills. Like they really want it to work. I'm just not sure it can work with the current pace and structure of content that they're doing. And it feels to me like we're really not going to see a proving point until Black Panther gets here. And like, if that expansion is massive and huge and all this game-changing stuff happens with it, and it's this total transformation, like Taken King was with Destiny, like Reaper of Souls was for Diablo. Sure, maybe that's it. Maybe that's the moment, and that's kind of what I've been pushing for. I wrote a whole article about like how they need a big, giant expansion, and I hope it pans out. But in the interim, I think this is going to be a rough 6 month stretch here, kind of like the last 6 months have been. Like there will be some more content than what we've gotten in the last 6 months, I think. But it's, you can still kind of pick apart and see where the problems might be with that, unless they kind of introduce some larger overarching changes to endgame stuff and loot and things like that. And they might, like they're talking about all these different things. Like they're doing some sort of loot overhaul. They're gonna have a Paragon system with XP, so that would encourage you to grind out max level characters to kind of additionally bolster them in different ways and things like that. So maybe once all this happens, that will be a good road. But right now, just with Hawkeye, just with this launch of this one zone, like there's still not much there. And between him feeling like really similar to Kate, like I'm okay putting him down sooner than I would probably a brand new character like a Captain Marvel or something. And then there's just I'm gonna have to go back to regrinding mostly old content like that I've done so many times before if I want to take him to max power. And like I would kind of like to craft an exotic build. I was going to try and do a melee build for Hawkeye, which is counterintuitive, but his sword is very strong. But like I don't know if I want to like put the time in to just be grinding hives and mega hives and vaults and things like just for that number increase until I can get to the point where the gear drops are actually things I want and that I can use permanently, because that's where we are right now. And I'm like power or gear level 60, and I would need to get to like gear level 135 before you can start getting like max gear, and that is just very, very far away, to the point where like if I had completely nothing else to do, maybe I would be doing it, but I do have enough other things to keep me occupied right now. I got to go grind out some trials and get this hand cannon right now. So like I have other stuff to do. So I don't know. It's an okay content update. Like I see no reason not to, if you have Avengers, to download it and play it. The new 60 FPS and the performance upgrades on PS5 and Xbox Series X are really good. The loading times, like the character screens where they would like they were like screaming at the screen, and like that was like the loading screen of these high res pictures of the roster. Those don't even exist anymore. Like loading times have gotten so good that those have been cut out of the game completely, and like you just instantly appear in the hangar or whatever it's called, the helicarrier, and so they really have done a lot of cool performance things in that regard. So like if you can find this game for cheap and you've never played it, yeah, I absolutely recommend it. Like if you're playing $10-20, like the base campaign alone is worth that. And I still have no regrets about like buying Avengers or whatever. Like I have gotten a good amount of time out of it and I've enjoyed it. It's just I worry about its future as a live service game based on what we've seen so far. And even if they are, trying to kick things into gear with a roadmap and an expansion and stuff, it still seems like a pretty long road to get there. And I'm wondering how much runway they're going to have based on sales and the current player count and things like that. So we'll see. Give Hawkeye a shot if you want. But until some new roadmap thing drops, this will probably be the last time I talk about Avengers for a little while. Like I had two days worth of videos based on the reveals, but that's kind of all there is to say at the moment. So anyway, thanks for watching. Evie fell asleep over there, but she had a good amount of time earlier. If you made it this far, subscribe to my newsletter, God Rolls. You can find that. I'll put a link to it. This is the new thing I'm doing every Sunday, so that'll drop tomorrow, where it's like a big roundup of all my posts from the week, like highlights and some of my videos in case you've missed those, and EV pictures and things like that. It's kind of a new initiative I'm starting, and it's free. So just if you could just sign up for that, that would be awesome. And I'm trying to kind of build that up right now as my current project. So, yep. All right. I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching.